Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novi-Williams, and this is the Hurricane Cash Sports Business Podcast, the
Did I
Sporticast.
just do this? Right there? I
Throw
just
up the U, Scott.
does Indiana have anything? Is there? How do you? That'd be very
I'm
hard.
sure
Like,
there. IU, I don't know.
IU is there? Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Certainly doesn't feel like the swagger of Miami, that's for sure.
Well, you know why I guess for the rest of my life, can never be a very big IU backer, right?
I don't know. Something Syracuse related or no?
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah. Give me if IU Syracuse. What was it?
Bobby Knight.
No, Keith Smart.
Yeah.
Hit the jumper in the NCAA championship game.
What year was that?
I don't know, 87?
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 87. It would sting a
I
whole...
wasn't alive at that point.
You were alive.
If it was 87, I was not alive.
What year were you born?
December 87.
Oh, my God. That really hurt just right there. Yeah, that really, really hurt. Yeah, Keith Smart hit the jumper to beat Syracuse in the championship game.
Gotcha.
But I'd say the sting would probably worsen lifelong if Carmelo had not led Syracuse. Once you've felt like really it is, and I laugh at all these. I one of the few. I did say, now that I've celebrated, my buddies and I were all together. I now know what it looks like to see that final shot not go in, buzzer go off. Syracuse beats Kansas. One shining moment, and your school is the last one standing. I know what that feels like. I don't care if they don't win ever again.
Yeah.
Like, I got it. Okay, and I'm not. Now,
I will never know what that feels like.
No, you may, but
No.
you never get that. Like all these other schools that always win, now they still I mean it when I say, all right, I'm okay. I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
I'm not going to I don't need 5 championships. I got it. I'm sorry for all those students that are there now and don't have that feeling, but I do. So thank you. I know what it is. But on the football field, I don't know, Miami and Indiana, you had Catholics versus convicts way back in the day. What's the T-shirt here? Hoosiers versus Hellions. What do we have? What do we have? How are we labeling this? Put on your marketing hat.
Yeah, I don't know what the labeling is, but I do think, and we had a big debate in the office that brought in like 5 or 6 people earlier this morning. My read on this, and maybe this is, I think I may be in the minority here.
You usually are.
So Miami obviously has a lot more football history
pedigree, yes,
than Indiana does. But I would group both of these schools into a pot of 5 years ago. It looked like college football was leaving them behind. And they are both a product of this crazy new world of college sports where instead of a championship game in football or even a 14 playoff, we have a 12-team playoff now, right? Which is why Miami is in this tournament
for now.
There
will be more coming, yeah.
And secondly, the way in which NIL money and now revenue sharing has changed the kind of direct tie between donors and athletes and their salaries, let's call it what it is, their salaries, makes it so that you can go with a little help, and in Indiana's sense, it's having a coach who seems like he's pretty darn legit. With a little bit of help and some highly targeted spending.
By the way, he wins. You can Google it.
You can Google him, exactly. With a little help and some money, your fortunes as a program can turn around very, very, very quickly. And I think we're seeing slightly different degrees here between Indiana and Miami. But right now, and I say right now because this could change in 5 years, but right now, this idea that the richest schools are going to dominate everybody else has not held true. And we are in a particular moment currently where you get a good coach and you have a good year, and suddenly you can spend a lot of money on players that want to transfer in immediately. And your fortunes as a program can change virtually overnight. So what Indiana has done turnaround wise, if you look over the kind of the long arc of Indiana football history, is truly remarkable. And I feel kind of similar about Miami, even though, again, they were one of the dominant programs in college football in the 90s. But being in the ACC 6 years ago looked like it was a potential long-term death knell for your competitive nature. Mm-hmm. And right now, this kind of current mix of chaos and lack of rules has made stories like Indiana and Miami possible.
Now, I also saw a stat, I don't remember the numbers, but the number of 5-star recruits so it was Indiana and either one of the semifinal opponents.
And probably Alabama.
Maybe Alabama. It was insane. Like, they had like 4. It's
yeah,
a totally different roster construct. Yeah.
And this is how this all works now, is that every school, whether you're Indiana, who was the best team in college football this year, or pick a school that was horribly disappointing, everyone's going through massive roster turnover. Right. And for a school like Indiana, it's probably medium-sized recruits who are getting pushed out by really big names and highly prized recruits that are coming in the transfer portal. In other schools, it might be high recruits who suddenly realize, oh, this isn't going to happen for me at Auburn, but I can transfer to Indiana and do that. There's just a massive reshuffling of all of the deck chairs every single year. And that's true whether you are the best team in the Power Five or the worst team in the Power Five. And the debate we had here, because Molly Geary, one of our editors, is a Maryland fan, and she said at one point, like, this couldn't happen in Maryland.
She was getting quite vociferous in the office earlier.
I think it could happen. I think it could happen basically anywhere. Right?
This could happen anywhere, yeah.
If Rutgers suddenly hired a great coach and had a few good years, and suddenly there were a few alumni.
Greg Schiano the coach?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, like, if something were to change at Rutgers and there were to be suddenly real optimism about Rutgers' future, in 2 years, it's possible that Rutgers could be in a position to compete at the highest levels of this sport. I don't think that's sustainable forever at Rutgers. I have questions about whether it's sustainable forever at Indiana. Right. But in this kind of micro world where your roster turns over this quickly, 2 or 3 good years can take you from a team no one thinks about to a team that competes. And as chaotic as college sports is right now, there is some kind of beautiful kind of level of the playing field and opportunistic optimism, I think, that exists right now. And again, I don't think this is going to last forever, but in this current moment,
enjoy it while it does. You get good matchups like Indiana against Miami.
Yeah. Vanderbilt, right? Like, if Vanderbilt is in the play, they almost made the playoff this year. Yeah. If Vanderbilt's in the playoff next year because a few donors saw this moment as the iron is hot, let's strike right now.
And Diego files suit for a 27th year in college athletics.
Diego Pavia in 2029 is leading this team. Whatever it is, there's these two teams are a good representation, I think, of the current upheaval and maybe leveling of the playing field in college football.
All right, I got a good one. Since you mentioned Rutgers, what oft-referenced sports business personality on the Sporticast has ties to Rutgers?
Ooh.
Yeah, this one may surprise you.
David Stern get his undergrad at Rutgers?
The answer is yes, he did.
Wow.
Well done, Eben Williams.
That was a pure guess given
yes,
given the context
I set you up with an off. Yeah. I didn't like all the way
Jersey
there,
guy.
That was well done. Yeah, David.
Amazing.
Columbia Law and Rutgers University undergrad.
We should talk a little bit about Miami, because I think there's some interesting quirks of
you mean that they get to keep all the money?
For Miami? Yeah. So for folks who don't know, the way payouts for the college football playoff work is that schools earn money that gets given to their conference, and different conferences have different ways of divvying up the money. And some schools will give it out evenly across all their programs, right? So if there's 12 teams in the Big 12, let's just say.
I may feel a whiteboard coming.
Theoretically, they could
explainer.
distribute money earned by a Big 12 team evenly across all schools. The ACC goes the exact opposite direction. Whatever the school earns for the conference gets distributed entirely to the school. So Miami's going to make $20 million plus, Scott, just in
was that
in playoff distribution.
But is that a deal cut based on leverage of when they join the conference?
No, not to my knowledge. No, I mean the ACC Miami's been in the ACC for a while. Sometimes you do see this. So Boise State's a good example. For a while, and we did do a whiteboard video about this, the very complex way in which conferences are compensated for their men's March Madness basketball success. Boise State negotiated because I'm talking about Gonzaga here, not Boise State, but Boise State had a similar deal in football. In basketball, Gonzaga made for the WCC.
Prominent program. They
made basically all of the money, right? Yep. Them and St. Mary's. So they had a deal where they got to share more of that. Yeah. Boise State, kind of similar. For a while in their football conference, the football team was really good. The rest of the conference wasn't so great. And Boise State was getting to keep a lot more of the bowl money that they made. But Miami gets all of it. And not only that, Scott, there's a fun quirk about the travel. There's a travel stipend in here. The championship game is in Miami. Right. So
Hard Rock Stadium.
If this game was in Arizona, what Miami would pay to travel there is way higher than what Miami is paying to play a championship game in Miami. And they get to keep all that money also.
What's the Danny Silman hospitality night looking like? I mean, we have to call Danny, say, what are you doing?
So ticket prices resale prices are through the roof. Yeah. I hate resale price stories, Scott, because they always miss the whole point of
I'm going to say they
of
don't
the
get
economics.
It right.
But one interesting wrinkle here is that, and I didn't know this before the last 2 days, Indiana has the largest living alumni base in the country of any school.
You mean like most people alive?
Yeah, the largest alumni base of any school in the country. And
that surprises me.
Yeah, when you combine that with the fact that none of that alumni base has ever seen this football team compete for a national championship, you see a huge pressure demand from Indiana. I've seen some guesses that Indiana fans could be 70% of the bowl in Miami, even though it's basically a home game
area code here.
And none of that, at least not for the majority of online seats. I saw these stories about Indiana fans and their drinking proclivities for the semifinal game in Atlanta. There's an interesting kind of added pressure here, not just because Indiana is doing this for the first time ever, but also because the size of the alumni base is just so incredibly large.
Isn't Mark Cuban buying tickets for everybody?
So Mark Cuban, it's fascinating that obviously a fairly prolific and increasingly prolific Indiana football sports donor, but you see Mark Cuban has this very specific brand of economic understanding and social media inquisitiveness that I think is potentially could lift a lid on the way that a lot of these big event tickets get sold, Scott, which, as you know, a lot of it runs through these high-priced hospitality. We have no insight into how much inventory is being held back or not. The Super Bowl is the prime example of this, right, with On Location. But Super Bowl ticket prices are basically determined not necessarily by demand in the marketplace, but also by the people who control the tickets, how much they're releasing, right? So you can see the NFL and On Location have taken great steps to basically control the market for ticket prices leading up to the Super Bowl. It's a different partner. It's Revel XP as the hospitality partner for the college football playoff. I think there's a lot of things combining here that are going to keep these ticket prices high. And having Mark Cuban on Twitter just asking questions about how this economy works, why the prices are so high. You could see a world where when he gets his answers, he could be like, wait a second.
That's not okay. I'm going to start a company.
How is this the way this process works?
And you and I talked cost plus drugs and tickets.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's probably some similarities between the way in which added fees are added onto or added cost is added onto prescription drugs and tickets. And you and I talked about this briefly earlier this month about ticketing, but there's a lot of changes underway in the ticket world and probably going to continue to be more moving forward. But I don't think a lot of those things are necessarily fan friendly or price optimization friendly.
Should we profile
if you're someone looking for cheaper tickets?
Should we profile Rebel? Like who's in charge of the tickets?
Yeah, Jacob and I were looking at it, not to give away story ideas on the pod, but we were looking at it earlier. I was kind of expecting this to be an Elevate or an On Location business, and it's not, at least not right now. I think Revel cut its teeth in kind of the tailgate hospitality back when that kind of felt like the new frontier of college sports hospitality. And then obviously things have grown and college football playoff is a much bigger opportunity than on-campus tailgating. It's an interesting company and certainly an interesting time for people to be thinking kind of more in depth about why the tickets are this expensive and who's actually benefiting from them being this high.
How expensive are the tickets in Jacksonville for the next round of the playoffs?
Wow.
Brutal. Sorry, Shad. That was more of a quiver aimed at Eben and not the cons.
Exactly. College. Moving from college to NFL playoffs, a pretty banner weekend of. I know you don't follow football playoffs from a game by game basis.
I was stuck in an ice rink, but I'll tell you, when you're stuck in the rinks and all the fathers are lining the glass and they've got their phones out, they're all watching games. It really emphasizes to me the power of that content and why the Primes and Amazons are willing to fork over and get their subscriptions, and that it is the programming that actually works. Not everything 100%. Works. This does.
And our colleague Lev Cabas did a really fun data viz at Sporticast. I recommend people look at it about this football playoff specifically. and he used kind of a calculation of entropy to basically determine that this is the most wide open playoffs, one of the most wide open playoffs the NFL has ever seen. And that's basically looking at the odds that each team has. The NFL, as you know, does such a good job of deliberately building parity into its business, from the way it shares money all the way through the hard salary cap. And one of the things you get when you have that often is you get teams that are really well matched. And the Packers Bears game was an incredible comeback. The Jaguars Bills game had, I think, tied for the most fourth quarter lead changes of any playoff game in NFL history. There was only one blowout during the playoffs so far, Scott, and it was a 16-3 game. So it was even a 2-score game. That was the blowout.
I was leaving Philly as the game was ending. So I was like, oh, let me make sure I get out of here because there's going to be some unhappy people.
Yeah, even the Philly game, Eagles fans have a whole host of gripes for sure. But yeah, the NFL continues to be the dominant entertainment force in the country, and their games continue to be incredibly, incredibly compelling. And we say this now without so much made of the lack of stardom, right? No Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, Jared Allen, Josh Allen, sorry. Is still alive, right? And I think that's a big one for some folks around the NFL for them to beat the Jaguars. But I agree with you. I don't think it necessarily matters that much. And yeah, there's no dominant team in the NFL right now, and that serves to make, I think, a lot of these games more compelling.
Now, not that I or we at Sportico generally take rooting interests in these things, but there's got to be a small part of us that is rooting for the 49ers, in that when we do make our way to the Bay Area for the Super Bowl, we will be co-hosting an event with the Niners, as we have done for the last, how many, 3-4 years? I can't remember.
Yeah, and the one before that, I think, was we partnered with the Rams, and the Rams were in the game as well.
Well, we partnered with the Rams well in advance of anything, the playoffs, and it just so happened that LA Super Bowl, the Rams were participating in.
Sportico bump.
What a home run.
It's a thing.
Yeah, teams ought to really consider. But we think long and hard about who makes sense and why, and like-minded in sports business stuff. And I think between Kevin Demoff and the Rams, and Al Guido and the Niners, and the rest of that crew, Parag, it's a good group to partner with, because we host a nice happy hour on the Friday, and it is a really interesting amalgam of sort of 49ers people, Elevate people, Bay Area host committee people, Sportico people. Brings a lot of really, really interesting folks together who probably ordinarily don't get that much time together.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it. But I mean, macro level, NFL, again, we're not telling anybody anything they don't know here. I just marvel. I don't see anything like it when I look around for people who are out of home, and they will find a way, whether it's the restaurant in the rink, whether it's the hotel, whether it's the phones they're gathering around. Everybody figured out. No, like, what channel is True TV? You get that every year. If the NFL playoffs were on True TV, we'd all have it, just burned into our brains what channel that is in our systems.
And we didn't talk too much about the fact that Amazon got what I think everybody in the media world considered the most valuable of these first round NFL matchups, the Bears-Packers game, which ended up being obviously a tremendous game for folks who didn't turn it off.
If you didn't shut it off
at
early,
halftime,
right. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, the NFL certainly seems like it is spreading the love amongst its media partners in a slightly different way, in a way kind of throwing a bone to a streaming partner. It feels like a few years ago, this game certainly would have gone to one of the kind of legacy broadcast partners.
Yeah, but then let me call up some market caps of some of these corporations that control the media entities. Let me quickly, if you take a look at the market caps, it's very easy. And by the way, the NFL has the reopen clause, so we could be getting some of these packages to market sooner than anybody thought they might come. And the answer is going to be, I don't know why the NFL doesn't just do a series of one-year deals. Who would say no? Who's backing away? I know you want long-term guarantee. I got it. It's the NFL. I would bet on myself if I was an NFL owner.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So two things I'd say to that. One, just a lot of man hours go into negotiating these things, right? And to have to do that on an annual basis, even if everyone knows that the price is going to go up more and more.
On this one, simple. There's no negotiation. Here's the terms. NFL puts out an RFP. Here are the terms. Who says yes?
Yeah, largely it would go that way, I think, but I do think that there's enough red tape and process and lawyers and stuff that makes that hard. Secondly, we talk often about how you want your labor accord to come up and you want your media to come up after. Like, I think there's benefit in long-term stability of revenue, even with something as guaranteed year-over-year increasey as a year-over-year NFL.
I wouldn't do year-over-year CBAs, but I would.
Of course,
do media deals,
of course. But I think there's just benefit in some sort of printable contractual obligated revenue in a way that even if you were negotiating it year by year and that is all but guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yes, I think there is some good stability and what they're doing right now, right, which is long-term deals, but with the option to renegotiate them earlier, which is maybe best of both worlds.
Let me ask you this, just for giggles. 20 years from now, 20, 30, whatever, we'll have to really look down the road. How many games is an NFL season?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
It's a great question.
Thank you.
And what does a typical NFL week look like, right? Like, how many games are on Saturday?
Days, yeah.
How many are there games
on
Friday?
Well, they took Christmas.
Yeah, there's going to be, I think, very soon, I think you would agree with this, probably a standing Sunday morning game, largely overseas. And then there's so much talk about the SBA, the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which is the reason why the NFL does not play on Friday or Saturdays or Fridays, largely during the regular season, and what changes to that might look like. But yeah, I think
FCC commissioner going to do for us.
I think this is a great question. Even 30 years, I don't think you need to do, but 10 years, yeah. In 10 years, how many games are there? And also, yeah, what is the basic layout of a week of NFL games look like in terms of days of the week that they're getting played on? And I would imagine there are going to be more games than there are right now, and there's also going to be more consistent windows than there are right now as well.
You know, it'd be really fun if we go to a point where, I mean, we may already be there, where, sort of the health of the players has to be a consideration. What if we had... we're not there. Kind of, sort of consideration.
Team owners are putting their fingers in their ears right now.
Yeah, no. What if we had almost like the pitch count you see in Little League, but for NFL players? Well, he's carried the ball 18 times in the first half, and he only gets 29. I think that would be really fun if you had to manage a game where there were limits on what a player could do.
I mean, you kind of have this in baseball, right? With pitch counts, they're not set in stone.
Yeah.
And then you definitely have in basketball a big problem from NBA fans that I know, this load management, right? And the amount of I think there's a chance if you
wanted to play give me SGA, you want to play SGA 40 something minutes tonight, it's a big game, you can do it.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
that's the point.
Totally, yeah. But there's, and I don't know him specifically, but many big stars are deliberately sitting 10 games a year, right?
Yes.
So that's more than 10% of your games your stars are sitting. And at some point soon, I would not be shocked if the NFL, as it continues to expand, gets to a point where there is more structured rest for specific players, particularly teams that are playing well or not playing well. I think that's the one thing the NFL has always had is that 16-game season. Every game is critical basically for every team almost the entire year. And as you stretch these seasons into 17, 18, 19 games, you run the risk of getting to a point like the NBA where there are games that are meaningless fairly soon into the season or in the middle or on the back end. And I think the NFL wants to avoid having any of that conversation happening.
Now, I just went quickly to try to Google for segues here. I just did Tarek Skubal high pitches game. I'm getting a response. Tarek Skubal's highest pitch count in a game was blank in game 1 of the 2025 ALDS against the Guardians. What do you think Skubal's high pitch count was for the year?
Yeah, so it's obviously a 109.
Oh, good for you, Novi. 107.
Okay.
I would have went 120 something. I figured it's once.
It shows how much baseball is changing, right? Where there was a time when 120 was low for a starter.
No wonder. So he barely works. I wouldn't pay him more than $19 million a year. What about you?
Whoa, stepping into it there.
Yeah, how about that? I mean, I don't get this. I do not get how we are here in an arbitration where the delta between the offer and the ask with the premier pitcher is this far. I don't get it.
I'm kind of obsessed with this story. I wrote a little bit about it
Yeah.
for the club essay, the Club Sportico release on Monday. So Tarek Skubal, the 2-time defending AL Cy Young winner, probably one of the best pitchers in baseball, not debatable on that front, is seeking. He's in arbitration. For folks who don't know how arbitration works, it is an absurd, insane process, and other sports have this as well.
We should televise these. I'm telling you, this would get great numbers.
The way it works is at a certain point in your rookie deal for baseball players, you can enter the arbitration where you are essentially arguing that you're underpaid, and you present a number that you think is fair market value for your services, and your employer, basically
of the argument.
Yeah, you can either settle or you can go to a hearing where they're presenting mounds of evidence as to why you're not worth the thing that you think you're worth. It's comparables against other teams, etc. Other teams, other players. And it leads to a ton of, we talked about man hours with NFL negotiations. There's a lot of time spent at MLB front offices trying to get this silly process done. And it leads to a lot of acrimony. Yeah. If you're Tarek Skubal, you think you're worth $32 million. Your team says, and this is what the Tigers countered with, $19 million. Now suddenly you're in arbitration over a $13 million salary gap. It's the largest gap ever in baseball arbitration. You're probably not going to feel so great coming out of that about how the Tigers feel about your services. And it's happening.
But what do you do if the team comes back to you when you win? And he will win, or the settlement will be great, and say, well, Tech, we think you're worth every penny, but we got to save where we can.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the cognitive dissonance that everybody has to have here, which is that, like, this is the system. It's silly. We think you're great. Obviously, like, this is how this works, and we're going to end up with something. We
need 3 other relievers if we're going
probably closer to 32 million than 19 million. Seems like the end result here. And this happening, and Jeff Passan did a great story at ESPN last week about this, happening in the broader context of a massive labor fight that's coming for Major League Baseball. And arbitration is not specifically a huge part of that talks, but it is indicative of the biggest challenge right now for players, right? Which is that it can be 10 years between you getting drafted and you having any say in what you're compensated.
Well, that's why we've seen a lot of those deals where before you're really eligible for the Whopper, we've seen a lot of players sign on for longer-term guaranteed lifetime.
100%. And Gunnar Henderson, the Orioles, I believe, just set a record for the highest, after your first year, your highest arbitration settlement ever. I think it was $8.5 million what he's going to get paid next year. But the way baseball works, you get drafted, you sign a signing bonus after your draft, which is often just slotted into exactly where you are in the amateur entry system. Then you go to the minor leagues for a few years. Your minor league salary is already set. And then you start your rookie deal where there's basically 6 years of control from your employer. Now you get to arbitration 3 years into that process. Theoretically, it differs by player. But there's the 10 years of control before you hit the open market in any capacity is the central challenge, I think, facing baseball right now. It's upended the entire economics of the sport. Owners are paying less on the back end. It's shrinking the kind of strike while the iron's hot prime of your career, not just for stars, but for baseball players that are less than stars. This Tarek Skubal's record arbitration is happening at a time when arbitration is one of the many things that is now kind of up for debate, and what will probably be a vibrant debate, Scott, in the baseball labor talks. I've said this
before in labor talks. There are things called blood issues. I'm not sure if arbitration will be a blood issue, but you're going to have several fronts here. We need to solve the local media revenue problem for MLB, and then we can work. That's an internal issue.
Yeah.
And then you can work on sort of owner versus player and where they want to really. When I see that, I don't remember the player, but I saw another player make reference to service time. It's the NBA, to service time and health coverage for his family.
Interesting.
I just love the fact that is the thought process. More and more, we're starting to see health coverage is in the thought process front and center.
Phillip Rivers could be the poster child.
I'll come back and get another 5 years of NFL health coverage for the fam. Sure. And when you have that many kids, that's needed. What, 10 or 11?
Yeah, he's got grandkids. So Phillip Rivers, as we talked about earlier this year, restarted a 5-year clock of insurance for him and his children, and that is a non-zero amount for a family that size. So you're right, arbitration's not a blood issue here. The way the two sides come down on it is that baseball owners, I think, lament the amount of work that goes into it. I think everyone agrees the process is flawed in many ways, and they feel like there is a different way of determining salary based on performance that could be done without the hearing and all that.
And the game's full of analytics that can do it on the salary performance way as well.
Exactly. And then on the player side, I think they really like the potential freedom, right? Like it is the one avenue by which Tarek Skubal at this point in his career can have a say in what he's making. And same with Gunnar Henderson. And if you think you're worth $1 billion, this is at least an avenue for you to make the case that you're worth $1 billion, right? And changing the arbitration system would get away from that freedom for players. So again, there's a part of this that is indicative of the broader blood issues that you talked about. We'll see in the next year, 2 years, eventually how this works out for baseball players and for baseball owners.
Yeah, and maybe we should have started with this, but by the way, welcome to the Sportico staff to Sarah Germano. If you're not familiar with her work.
We buried the lead here, yeah.
Wall Street Journal, FT, The Information. Now she's here at Sportico. Looking forward to some great things with Sarah. We will definitely have her. Maybe we'll have her on the show later in the week, see what her thoughts are, how she's looking at sports business. She used to live in Europe. She was in Berlin for a while. Going to the Olympics for us kind of deal. Well, let's see where her head is at. Maybe we'll bring her on and see what she's planning for coverage.
Yeah, speaking of free agent signings, Sportico has done quite well in the past 2 weeks. We've had Tom Lowry, Luisa Beltran, and Sarah Germano start, and we got another future All-Star coming on in February as well.
I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but I just would like to get the smile out of you, because if you were still the young buck that you were back then, I would suggest to you now, we really ought to get a comment from Carlos Beltran to see what it's like that his sister is working at Sportico, and watch you pick up the phone and start to dial those digits. That would be a lot of fun. If you want to tell the story at another time, that's fine.
I will, yeah.
But people changing jobs, and maybe check the LinkedIn. If you know anybody who works at MSG, you may be seeing some LinkedIn updates because MSG is offering, from what I'm being told, pretty generous, lucrative buyouts depending on your stature, service time with the company. But MSG looking to thin the herd, so to speak.
Yeah, and it comes at an interesting time because all three MSG properties, which is MSG Entertainment, MSG Sports, and then the Sphere, all of them from a public traded stock price standpoint are doing pretty darn well. Yeah. I think they're all kind of trading right around record highs right now. So part of what we were told was there's advanced vesting on potential stock options for as part of the buyout offers. I think this is common across business, right?
Post COVID, and now with return to work and back in office kind of stuff, you just do have people who, I think, if they're just in any way incentivized to be like, all right, I can now maybe use this to look for something else rather than stay in a position maybe their whole heart and mind is not really in. You're seeing that across the board, and I think that's what this is about at MSG.
Yeah, and the company told us that this is not a cost-cutting measure. Yeah. I'm not sure how you make the argument that it's not, and I guess maybe they'll refill all these positions at higher price points. But at least the company is talking about this as looking for a more efficient and nimble business, as opposed to any kind of larger trouble underway at the Madison Square Garden companies.
All right, go for it, my man. Close it out.
He is Scott Soshnick. You can find him on Twitter at Soshnick. I am Eben Novi-Williams. I'm on Twitter at Novi_Williams. Show is produced by Justin Greenewald, who we would let throw a million pitches if he wanted to.
Hey, throw as long as he wants.
Sportico's social media team, Matt Palacio, Sebastian Milo, Carol Winston would like you to know that you can follow the show at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network.